This is Tahtib, a folk dance particularly popular in Upper Egypt. There is, as you can see, quite a bit of art to it. It's mock combat set to rhythmic music. Like a lot of folk dances, it can be very highly choreographed or improvised based on known moves and non-verbal communication, particularly when it's performed in a pair. The music seems to my untrained ear to aid in keeping the dance going, and I think that there's a possible, albeit tenuous, reason for this. And it's because of the combative element. Battle, one might say poetically, is a music that goes on around you, and if you miss a move, you may find yourself knocked out. But it's not just mock combat because the sticks serve as analogues of weapons, because any handheld item can be an analogue to a weapon. Tahtib's origins may have more in common with what we tend to think of as martial arts. That's a broad concept. There are arts like fencing and taekwondo, which are fairly divorced from the principles of defense and combat, and on the other end are systems like Krav Maga, which many practitioners don't call a martial art simply because it is intended not for performance, but for actual use in self-defense. But since Krav Maga has professional tournaments and an international rank system, it's a martial art, as far as I'm concerned. Tahtib sits on the fencing end of the scale, though it looks a bit more fun than fencing to me. But it didn't always sit there, at least so it's believed. The actions I've called dance moves can be seen depicted, performed by ancient Egyptians, not in dance scenes, but here, where soldiers are shown in training. The legend behind the modern practice of Tahtib is that there's a direct, millennia-long connection between this practice of training the body through stick fighting to the modern art of pretending to fight to musical accompaniment. It's a pretty compelling idea. Combat in practice is chaotic, and this has been true from the first time one crowd fought another crowd all the way to the modern battlefield. Drills and weapon practice seem almost comically dissonant from the reality of battle, but in fact there's a sensible principle to it, particularly when fighting hand to hand. When the person near you is holding a stick he intends to kill you with, thinking about how best to use your own weapon in return isn't the best idea for survival. But if you've spent thousands of hours learning moves and turning what you've learned into reflexes, then you don't have to think. You have an edge that might keep you alive no matter how fast the music, and no matter how chaotic the battle around you. The ancient Egyptians mostly fought with spears, but we can see here that they train with sticks, so they can get used to holding a spear to using it in different ways. After all, an enemy isn't always going to just stand still and let you line up the perfect thrust. Sometimes you have to do something awkward to just land a blow, or prevent a blow being landed. Now, this diagram dates to the Old Kingdom, when, alongside spears, many Egyptian soldiers were still fighting with stone or copper-headed maces and axes, so these manoeuvres would have stood them in good stead for most hafted weapons. Just below this scene, we can see pictures of men wrestling. Another truism of hand-to-hand battle is that your weapon can be broken or cast from your hand. Your fight may well end with you wrestling in the desert dust with an equally tired opponent, hoping that your skill and stamina can outmatch the other chaps, otherwise you won't be getting back up again. I love these scenes. Compared to a lot of depictions of ancient Egyptians, even when they're shown, for example, dancing, there's something inherently mobile about these fights. Something that isn't just symbolic of people moving, but instructive of how to move. A lot of the time, the very idiosyncratic way the ancient Egyptians showed the human form didn't really show things as they were, but there's something in this style that reminds me of a medieval fighting manual, as though the figures are carefully depicted in still shots of a fight in progress. Ancient Egypt was a nation fairly consistently at war, so the idea of military drilling becoming a popular hobby is easy to imagine. In the Middle Ages in England, for instance, there were periods where archery practice was mandated and other sports such as football prohibited, so that should the ordinary citizenry be called up to fight, they'd already be trained. Remember that professional soldiers weren't a big thing in ancient Egypt, and most of the army was formed of conscripts, until the New Kingdom when professional cavalry became a class of their own. So having a physically strong populace who already know how to hold a weapon would be an advantage in turning raw conscripts into capable warriors. Although as history purportedly went, the ancient fighting practice evolved into a dance, its more devoted practitioners have never forgotten its martial origins. Now this video's title boasts that you could learn it today, and like any broad claim made to attract attention, I can't actually make any promises about that. But I can say that there are international efforts to extract the military DNA from Tahtib and shape it into something more like its ancient form. In these clips from our YouTube channel Modern Tahtib, we see a version of Tahtib that starts to slide closer to the practical side of my completely farcical and unscientific martial arts scale of before. This tournament you're seeing now took place in Paris in 2017. Bouts are decided by particular strikes. Inspired by the ancient drills, a single blow to the head or 3 to the body ends a bout, and much of the technique is dedicated to the protection of the head. It certainly looks very impressive. And every now and then, they still put it to music. Thanks for watching. Next week is the channel's first anniversary, which is a wonderful milestone to have reached, and I'll be celebrating with a video I've been working on for a few months with fellow YouTuber Zoe B. So if you haven't subscribed to me already, please start questioning your life choices so that you don't miss out. That video will actually be coming on Saturday the 29th, not the previous Wednesday, because collaboration. But a nice side effect of that is that my higher tier Patreon backers will see the video on the 27th, which is the actual anniversary of my first video. The paragons of grace and aggression that defend my kingdom are my backers at patreon.com/armchairegypt, though I'm not sure many of them would actually hit someone with a stick for me. Until next time, my fellow armchair Egyptologists, life, prosperity, and health to you all. Thanks for watching. Head over to my channel for more, or click here to see what the YouTube demons think you should watch next. I hope you'll consider subscribing. If you'd like to support and collaborate on the channel with me, go to patreon.com/armchairegypt. You can also join my Discord community, there's an invite link in the description.